All right, so real quick, I want to talk about death. So I've been making quite a few videos on this topic recently, and I wanted to highlight a few components. First, I want to talk about modern man's view and relationship with death. And then I want to talk about the Buddhist view of emptiness and how that pertains to our narrative and our perspective on death. So, first, I think we could say that most people are afraid of death. And I think that that's completely natural, actually. I think all creatures fear the end of this mind and body to some degree. We don't want it to happen, let's put it like this. We've invested quite a bit of time, energy into this form. We're committed to it. I don't want it to end because I still got things to do, the deer got grass to eat, they don't want to die, and so on and so forth. So, there is a healthy fear of death. Like, I don't want to get nuked. I don't want a grizzly bear to maul me. These are natural responses, natural, again, relationships with death. The end of this physical body, at least. That very ultimate sense of death. And that's all good and fine. But are we irrationally fearing death as this ultimate finality, as the end of everything that I am? This relates also to the modern view of ego and self, where the modern view of identity of self is that this mind and body is what I really am. I do not extend beyond this. And thus, when this dies, that's it. Everything that I am goes too. This view is very painful, actually, to sit in that kind of ultimate ending. And I want to say that death is most certainly an end. But it's not an end in that ultimate sort of sense. This mind and body does end, of course. Is there a soul? Is there reincarnation? I honestly don't know. Some traditions say yes, some say no, some say we go to the pearly gates. We don't know. It is the great unknown at this point. And a part of me thinks that it sort of has to be that way. Entering the void, and entering infinity and eternity, actually. The merging of subject and object into a non-dual place. Potentially that's it. We don't know. Anyways, so there's a healthy relationship with death. That's a real thing. To keep this body alive is a good goal, for sure. But are we causing ourselves quite a bit of suffering when we have a narrative that is this mind and body is all that I am? If that's our functioning narrative, then we are living in a world where the end is coming of everything. And that's scary. And if we look at the natural world, just, clearly in front of us, we see death and we see rebirth everywhere. And if we see identity, if we see self, what I am, in the natural world, in the dead trees and the living trees, in the sprouts, and in the charred ash, it's all me. So guess what? When this body's dust and ash, what's next? More sprouts, more rebirth. And when we hold this view and recognize that we are that too, as the Vedic term goes, Tatvamasi, I am that. That being absolutely anything that I could point my awareness to. I am the clouds, I am the sky, the stars, I am imagination, I am the gods, I am the dirt, I am the amoebas, I am all of it. So at that point, when we hold that view, what dies? This mind and body, yes, turns to dust. But is that really what you are? At one level, it is what you are. But that's not the full picture. That's half of it. Yes, this is everything that Ben is at one level. But also, the consciousness that has seen my life through my eyes sees life through the eyes of the kids running around, through the dogs in the dog park next to my house, through my parents, through my friends. Same consciousness, same seer, same witness. Different conditions, different lives, different experiences. Same witness is experiencing all of these diverse experiences. When we hold this view, what is death? Only this mind and body dies. And I want to then point to emptiness, Shunyata, the crux of Buddhism, which I talk about regularly because it is deeply liberating when it sinks. Emptiness, Shunyata, pertaining to these narratives, if we apply emptiness, we know that all of these narratives are empty of inherent existence in the sense that there is no ultimate truth. It's what you make it. We can reinforce things, we can say, oh, but this is it and here's why, and we can find stories that are counter to that and proof for those. The deeper that we dig, the more that we'll find no absolute truth. And that opens up quite a bit, because then we get to choose which narrative do I want to feed? Do I want to create as creator? What world do I want to live in? Do I want to live in a world where death is the absolute final end? Or do I want to live in a world where what I am could never die, because what I am is never really born? Beyond all of the infinite forms, bodies, beings. Beyond that, what is birth and death? When we come to these places, which anybody can, the fear of death fades quite a bit. And I still don't want to die, for sure. But if it's my time, like, what can I do? I can either resist it, fight it tooth and nail, or I can let go. And there's a time and place for both. But being able to let go into the flow of creation, into faith and trust, actually, in what we are. Because again, tat vamasi, I am that. I am this body, and I am that which takes this body. If it's a car accident, if it's cancer, if it's a hemorrhage, I'm also that hemorrhage. It's non-dual. I am that tat vamasi. So, in a sense, what I really am is actually doing the taking of this life. So how can I argue with that? And again, the mind will try to... Sorry, my phone did something. I don't know. The mind will try to come up with some degree of certainty of, oh, this is definitely how it is. There is no death, blah, blah, blah. It's like, or it'll say there, definitely is death. We're trying to find this solid ground to stand on as far as certainty goes. It's this way or that way. And that's the trap. It's both. And in a very ultimate sense, none of them. Because all of these truths are empty of inherent existence. Oh. Anyways. So, dealing with relative truths, we get to pick. What narrative do I want to feed, believe? Do I need proof? When we see emptiness, we don't. That is the proof. Emptiness, in a sense, as I've said before, is the truth to end all objective truth. The knowing to end all solid knowing. It's all fluid at that point. All. What is with these lights? I don't know. But anyways, yeah. Applying emptiness to death. Our narratives about death, the end. Our narratives that it's something scary, actually. That's just a certain narrative. Empty of inherent existence, like everything else. What's the outcome of fearing death to a degree that we avoid it? Also, because in our culture, what do we do with the elderly, sick people? We put them in hospitals. I mean, probably a good place. Old folks' homes, we don't keep them in the nuclear family anymore. We put them aside. We don't want to see it. We don't want to see death. We glorify youth, and we reject old age, sickness, and death. Which is what the Buddha saw, which put him on the spiritual path, is witnessing firsthand that everyone gets old, gets sick, and dies. If you're lucky, you get old. But our relationship to death is skewed. We reject the natural cycles of creation. We reject the fact that we're all going to die. We don't want to see it. And it is in that rejection that we create a monster It's in our inability to look death in the eyes, to spend time with it and create a relationship to it, that we construct this big scary monster that now we have to run from and drink ourselves into a coma to avoid, to not look at. We don't want to look at it because it's the unknown. Why is it that? Because we're too busy distracting ourselves from building a relationship with this thing called death. So, if we want to get over our fear of death, we have to spend quite a bit of time with it. Meditation in charnel grounds, where bodies are burned. In India, this is a common meditation. Tibet, Nepal too, I believe. Spend time with your loved ones who have passed, whether that's physically in graveyards, with their ashes, or calling them in imagination, remembering that you are right behind them. I did hospice work a couple years ago, and that was deeply transformative and beautiful to remember I'm right behind her, this person that I'm ideally helping to die, recognizing there's nothing we can do to stop that. And it seems kind of naive and immature in my mind to resist the inevitable. It's like resisting growing up. I want to be a kid forever. I don't ever want to hit puberty. Well, good luck. When puberty hits, it's gonna hurt if you resist it like that. And so too do we resist death, the inevitable. It's this thorn in our side, this metaphorical thorn that is subtle, yet constant and pervasive in our culture. And it is hindering our ability to really be in life and to really embrace fearlessness, which I'm telling you is a real thing. To move beyond the fear of death, at least, which is tied to, I would say, all other fears, actually. So if we can look death in the eye, not be afraid of it, welcome it when it comes, remember who you are, remember what you are. What happens to our ability to really be with life, to really take risks, not just physically, but talk to that girl you liked, quit this job, get a new one, to follow your passions. We can do this when we're not afraid of the finality of this. When we realize, oh, there is no end, actually. I do this. We do this. Us. This. We do this forever. When we see this, we can let go into the flow and just move with the Tao, really. Just open to what's here. Follow that. Don't be afraid. If you die, you die. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of you either, actually. Okay, so our current view and relationship with death is causing a lot of suffering. It may be subtle, but it's there in the modern human mind. And according to Buddhism, all suffering is a product of delusion. It's a product of not seeing clearly. And why are we not seeing clearly? Maybe it's because we choose to avoid this topic of death altogether. And thus we're not seeing it clearly. If we just spent time with it, we'd realize it's not something to run from. We would realize the beauty and necessity in this thing that we call death, in endings. And realize that that's the easy part. Life is where we learn. This is the hard part. And as Shinzen Young says, Buddhist teacher, Zen teacher in particular, he says suffering is pain multiplied by our resistance to that pain. So when death comes, when we lose this body and mind and all the people we love, whether we lose them first or we die first, that hurts. There's a lot of grief, a lot of agony in that. That's life. And if we can be with that pain, agony, grief of losing everything that we've loved, if we can be with it, not resist it, open to it, will it hurt? Abso-fucking-lutely. But if we do not resist it, the suffering will not be immense, and we will also be able to tap into the beauty of agony, of crippling grief, the kind of grief that brings you to your knees in tears. That's a certain flavor of beauty that you can only access through grief, through loss. And in this place, this infinite flow of creation, All flavors are welcome. All flavors of experience will happen. And it's up to us to open, let them be. Let them be as they are. Recognize the artistic quality in this theater of experience that we call life. Because it is all a theater. It is all a play. As the Hindus say, it's the divine play, the Leela, that we all dance to. And when the curtain closes, what's real? Who's alive? Who's dead? Is there even any you and I? Or is it just us, we, in the place beyond words? Anyways, again, suffering is equivalent to pain multiplied by resistance. So, if we resist the pain that comes with loss, death, if we resist that, we amplify our suffering to huge levels, sometimes crippling levels, because we say this is not okay, this is not allowed. And when we say this is not allowed, I don't like this, it shouldn't be this way, we are resisting, again, the flow of creation. What could be interpreted as a gift, actually, no matter how painful it is. We have agency to choose how we interpret any experience. It's either a gift or a curse. It's up to you to decide. Always. We got to remember that. We do have agency. We are creators. So, if we want to move to a healthy relationship with death, we need to look it in the eyes. We need to sit with it. Recognize that this is going to die. Everyone I love is going to die. These places, this apartment building I'm in, will be gone. Dust. These mountains will be dust. All the trees that I've known, they will be dust too. But they will be repurposed to some new life, which is you too. Recognize that everything we see has come from that dust, that divine blank canvas that has to be present in order for something new to grow. Our bodies are composed of elements that can only be found in exploded stars. I believe that's true. You might want to fact check that. I heard that somewhere I trust. But I believe it. We are coming, all life has come from death. What we eat has always been alive. We can't sustain ourselves off not killing, eating life, whether that's plants or animals. We need death to support life. When we see the inevitability of the two, the actual codependence of the two, you see life is death, actually. Don't try to think about that too much. Life is death. Where there is life, where there is death. And where there is death and ending, there's rebirth. Got this tattoo. This was the first tattoo I ever got, actually. It's Om Namah Shivaya, in praise of Shiva, the god of destruction in Hinduism. But Shiva doesn't just destroy. He's also the bringer of newness. So in the destruction, newness is brought, whether that's new experiences, new life, new bodies, new beings, new worlds. Everything that we experience has come from destruction, and that's okay. Again, recognize what we are. It's a matter of zooming out, opening our scope of life, experience, what we think that we are. Remember that we're bigger than this mind and body, and let this turn to dust. Because how many lives have had to die so that I could be here right now? And if I were them, what would I wish? If I could tell them one bit of advice, what would it be? Maybe just to let go and let it happen. And to remember what you are. And to remember what you're not. And you're not limited to this mind and body. What we are goes so much beyond that. And if you need proof, sit in meditation. If you need real, direct proof, examine this thing we call self. Is it the mind and body? And if it's this body, is it the food that I ate? Where did it come from? If I lost limbs, they started cutting me in pieces. When do I become no longer Ben? When I'm just, a head on a respirator. You know what I mean? Is my body what I am? Is my mind? What is that? Other than accumulation of experiences, certain people, my parents teaching me, my brothers. Like, where do I end and the rest of the world begin? It's an empty delineation, actually. It is where we make it. And they're all kind of wrong. Because in an ultimate sense, it's very paradoxical. I am this body, for sure. I am this mind. That's what I am. But I'm also all of it. I'm also none of it. Again, don't think about it too much. But again, moving to a place beyond the irrational fear of death, we open to the end of it all. It's actually in our resistance to death that we solidify, contract this narrative into something that is very solid and unchanging. This is how the psyche works. Through contraction and fear, we take this idea and we contract it and make it tight and solid, and it appears in the mind as such. If we want to change these narratives, we have to approach what is here now with love. And even if that's a very painful narrative about life and death, about what I am, and the end of it all, if it hurts, great. Be with that, and don't just be with that. Love that. Learn how to open that. How do you hold that as if it were a small child? Hold that pain. Treat it with care, real love, even though it hurts. And it is through this process of loving the pain that we loosen these contractions of psyche, of mind, so that this knot, this contracted narrative that is the fear of death, can loosen. Through love, these contracted narratives will loosen to the degree where we can see through them, where they will be completely deconstructed. We'll come to that place of emptiness, Shunyata. From that place, we can then construct any narrative that we choose, feeling into ourselves, to feel into what is right, what is meaningful, what is rich, what is deep, what world do I want to live in, recognizing that there is no real world. That's a narrative, that there is such a thing. An empty belief. Anyways, thank you for joining me on this talk on death. My phone is making noises. I don't know if you heard that. Anyways, my name's Duff, as you probably know. Well, my name's Ben. Duffy. And I have an Instagram where I post a bunch of this stuff. But I'm trying to do more videos like this. I gotta go through your comments. I know I've been getting some. If you watch this the whole way through, you want me to riff on whatever topic or just open some sort of discussion, let me know. Let me know what you want me to talk about. I would love to talk about those things. So thank you.